bells ringing in my ear. Jingle bell, a sound that's oh so dear. Frosty the snowman is all around town. Watch out for reindeers are falling down. We stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney at the speed of light, while we're dancing around the Christmas tree, hugging and kissing just you and me. Carolers are singing outside our door, lovely songs we all heard before, as they walk from house to house to wish us all a Merry Christmas Day. Oh, a Merry Christmas Day.
Here we go. Welcome back to another warm-up show with the hockey coach Guru called FRENCHY directly for the Sunshine State in Florida. And we have to go all the way to the north to find our co-host, Mr. ENORTAP. Welcome aboard, Mr. ENORTAP. Welcome to another warm-up show, Wednesday, December 22nd, 2021. So thanks again, ENORTAP, to be joining us. How are you doing today, Mr. ENORTAP?
I'm doing amazing, Coach. Can't wait to get today's show going. I'm really looking forward, not
Awesome.
only with being with our players, but friends, but also with Jack today.
That'd be great. We know that a lot of people show up. Usually we welcome everybody in our tap. We welcome each one of them, and we wish, but unfortunately, because the time is really short today, because we have a special guest, Jack Han, for the hockey tactics. So we're going to go a little bit shorter. We welcome everybody of the family of the warm-up show. Thanks to join us today. Like I said, we have a special guest, and why not to open the door in our tap? Are you ready to open the door for Mr. Jack Han? And the house is directly from Montreal, Canada, de la belle province de Québec. We speak French and English, Jack, so welcome aboard of the family of the Hockey Initial Live Show.
Well, thank you for having me here. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour tout le monde.
Thanks,
So
Jack.
really
Little bit, tell us a little bit more about you, a little bit where you from and a little bit your bio, everything like that, so a little bit people knows a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I was born in China, but I grew up in Montreal. This is where I learned to play hockey. This is where I learned to love the NHL by watching the Montreal Canadiens. I grew up with hockey. It was something that was always something that I loved and enjoyed, and I turned into a career. So originally, I went to McGill University to study business. But then throughout that time, I was coaching high school hockey, and then eventually I got into more the analytics and the statistical side of the game. I worked for a year with the Montreal Canadiens as a writer for their website. And then afterwards, I ended up in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization as a player development analyst, as a scout, as an assistant coach for their AHL team. And now I'm working with players from minor hockey to pro across North America to improve their game.
Awesome. And then I think you run, because I'm a member, so I know exactly how we connect together, but the hockey, a little bit more about the hockey tactic, what it's all about, and you can maybe talk a little bit more.
So since I've left the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, I've obviously had a lot more time to work from home, and with the pandemic, it actually forced me to do less coaching on the ice and more through writing. So I sell ebooks about hockey tactics, about how NHL teams play, about how NHL players approach the game. And also I have a free newsletter called the Hockey Tactics Newsletter. And every week I have free content, and also I have paid content for people who want to learn a little bit more. But I would say it's one of the best resources to start out for free if you want to be a smarter fan, a smarter player, a smarter coach or parent. I'm here to help you out.
Yeah, by the way, I did your seminar a couple of days ago. Was really fantastic to participate in your seminar. A little bit more about you. I think at the same time you write a book or something. You write a book, or you have something like maybe online?
Yeah, so what I've been doing throughout the pandemic is just doing a lot of research about how NHL teams play. So the next ebook that I'll be releasing is actually, it's a series of what I call system sheets. So how do the Montreal Canadiens forecheck? How do the Toronto Maple Leafs run their breakouts? What are some face-off plays? What's a neutral zone forecheck? So the idea behind it is that a lot of the players and coaches I work with, they're always looking to learn from NHL teams, but also they're looking for ways to apply those tactical elements at their own level. And really what the project is going to be is you get about 240 sheets that you can actually print out and post, whether it's in the locker room, whether it's in your coach's office, so that, if you wonder, let's say, how the Tampa Bay Lightning, they play in the offensive zone, I'll give you a diagram of what that looks like, but also a few tips about how to implement it with your own players. So I think it's going to be a really great teaching tool for coaches of all age levels.
Yeah, absolutely great. Absolutely, I agree with you. Honestly, I'm coach myself, so I know when you write your system and I'm 1, 2, 2, whatever. I really enjoy your newsletter, by the way. So I invite everybody to follow Jack on the Twitter and also to his newsletter. Sign up under the Hockey Tactic. I know as analytic, you use fun program software, everything like that. Can you mention what kind of program do you use, or are you really more familiar to bring with you for your work?
So that's a really good question. There's a lot more technology in coaching now, more than ever before. And I think if you look at the very high level, if you're a young person looking to coach hockey at a high level, it's really important for you to be tech literate. And a few of the very important tools that I use, the first one is called Instat. So Instat is a video platform. Basically, you can go on Instat and look up video from different leagues, different players. They do very good breakdowns of, let's say, if you're looking for shifts of a specific player, if that player plays in a high-level league, then Instat will probably have it. So that's a tool that I use a lot, and it makes it really easy because, even as recently as 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, if we're talking about, let's say, an NHL team scouting a player in Europe, it might be difficult to get video on that player because you might have to ask a friend whose friend maybe works in that league, and then you got to exchange emails, and that person's got to upload the file to you, and it takes them like 2 hours, and then it takes you 2 hours to download it. With Instat, and there are other programs like that, but with those programs, now it's such a great time saving because you're spending more time actually looking at the video and breaking it down as opposed to finding the video, right? And I remember when I was in Toronto, a lot of times I would even look at YouTube just to see, hey, can I find a game of this player somewhere here? Has somebody posted a game? And now, for the most part, we're not doing that anymore. And the second thing is, aside from a platform where you can download video of players, which you'll have access to, let's say if you work for a high-level team that pays for that service, the second thing is once you have that video, you need a software that's going to help you break down the video. So at the NHL level, the number one software is called XOS Thunder Hockey. And this is a tool that, once again, it's a very complex tool that all NHL coaches know how to use pretty much. And this is why you see coaches, especially assistant coaches, they're getting younger and younger because the younger generation, like me, I'm 32, we're way more comfortable on computers and using computers to break down video. I'm using Mac right now, so the software that I use is called Huddle Sports Code. Very similar idea. So I can take a player's shifts, I can annotate, I can calculate certain stats, I can break it down. It's just a really great teaching tool because now with video you can be a lot more individualized, but also you're looking for tools as a coach to make things simpler so that you can share information with players without, once again, taking 2 hours to upload and download video files.
Yeah, absolutely right about that. It's funny you talk about Instat. That's really what I use all the time. And as a coach, maybe the best on the market to simplify your time. Remember like a long time ago, we took us for hours during the week to make all the kind of the video for the every players we teach, right? And now with Instat, it's right away. It's like few seconds, you get it, everything like that. So it's a great tool for the Instat. What about analytic now? When you make all the number, everything like that, what kind? Do you have any specific one you use, or you have your own table, Excel, whatever you have?
So this is another good question, and NHL teams have access to a lot more information just because they can hire people full time to track this data and to manage it and to create reports. And I'm guessing that a lot of your listeners are minor hockey coaches or they're minor hockey parents, right? And maybe they're less familiar or less comfortable with the idea of analytics or using stats to evaluate players. And what I would say is, at the simplest level, hockey is a game of frequency. Okay, so what that means is you can be small, you can be slow, you can have a weak shot, but if you get more shots, if you're in the other zone more often, if you have the puck more often, you're going to be a good player, and you're going to put up good results, right? And analytics in hockey is essentially a way to capture that. So how many good plays are you making versus how many bad plays are making? Now, good and bad is, and knowing what kind of plays you want to track. That's kind of like the secret, and every team approaches a little bit different way. But the one stat that I think everybody knows about now, Corsi, is just how many shots your team is taking versus how many shots they're taking. Like there's this old quote by Phil Esposito, and I'm pretty sure it's from him, but he says, in hockey, they don't ask how, just how many. So that's the exact idea right there, right? In hockey, because it's so fast, because so much is happening, we like to know how many. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely right about that. Mr. ENORTAP, any question you want to mention to Jack?
Yeah, first of all, welcome, Jack. It's a pleasure having you here with us today and imparting some of your life experiences that you've incurred so far. I just wanted I looked very carefully at some of the things that you have done in the past, but maybe you can detail for us, with the advent of video and then slightly later analytics, what role has that now played in the in hockey and specifically in the NHL, and how has that changed the game?
Really good question. And this is something that I lived through growing up, because I remember one of the most life-changing moments was, but this is back around like 2005. And in 2005, we didn't really have YouTube. It was like, it came around later, but it was really in its infancy. And it was very difficult to go online and tap a search and then have video come up. You had to download stuff. It took you a while, right? And I was using this like software sharing service called LimeWire. And this is something that like anybody in their 30s would know about. But if you're in your 20s or younger, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's a service where you're basically illegally downloading music or videos or other, and you're sharing them online. Okay. And I found this video of someone who had taken the time to compile all of Ilya Kovalchuk's goals from, I think, the 2004 season. And this was the first time that I ever actually studied video. Like, I would watch hockey just for fun and, with my friends or whatever. But it was the first time where I thought, okay, well, this is how a player approaches the game. And I was a guy who liked to score goals. I had a good shot, and I really liked Kovalchuk as a player, who was a very dominant player back then. And I took some very specific things from his game. Like, I remember learning that as a right-handed player, he loved to play on the left side because he always had that one time. So the way that Ovi plays now, right? Like before Ovi, it was Ilya Kovalchuk. So I remember like thinking, okay, well, I got to find ways to get on the left side of the ice. I got to take more one-timers. I got to use more wrist shots instead of slap shots, because as you go up in level, you have less time to get the shot off unless it's a one-timer, right? So I worked on my one-timers, I worked on my wrist shots, and I scored more goals. And it was the first, like, that was the first eureka moment where I was like, wow, like if you study people who do this better than you, you can get better. And now it's become so much easier. And you can, once again, if you have something like Instat, you can look at all of a player's shifts to identify patterns or to identify how this player treats certain situations. Does he like to play in the middle of the ice? Does he like to play out wide? Does he like to go one-on-one? Is he looking to play between checks? So for me, it's become more and more fun to be in hockey, just because it feels like such a richer game now. Because when I was growing up, a lot of coaches would say, just, work hard, dump the puck in, don't make mistakes, go to the net, stop and start. And then the level of instruction kind of stopped there. Whereas today, because we have video, we can be so much more nuanced, so much more individualized. So I think it's changed the game massively, and you see players are always getting better skill-wise. And that's a direct result of that.
100%. And so when, I guess the couple years you worked with the Maple Leafs, I think around 2017, 2018, first of all, how for our audience, how were you fortunate enough to get that position? And secondly, was that part of your responsibility to report to the GM, the coach, the players? How did it work?
So first of all, and I do get this question a lot, which is how do you get to the NHL as a coach or as a scout or as an analyst or basically a non-player, right? And for me, the answer that I found is actually, it's remarkably similar to as if you're a player, in the sense that how do you get to the NHL as a player? Well, you got to dominate minor hockey. You got to dominate junior. If you play college, you got to do really well in college, and then you got to do really well in the minor leagues. So it's a history of sustained excellence throughout the years, or maybe at the start you're not so good, but a history of, continued improvement, and then most importantly, you got to put up results. So if you're a goalie, you got to make saves and get wins and get shutouts. If you're a defenseman, if you're a forward, you got to get goals and assists. You got to be on the ice for more goals than you give up. It's all results. So the way that it happened with me was at 18, I started coaching high school hockey just as a student job. I didn't have any serious aspirations. I came from a background where my family is not really an athletic family. We were more academic. I thought I was going to go to university, either study law or medicine or business or something like that and go work in that. But I've always had that love of sports in the back of my mind. And throughout the years, as a second job, I would write for hockey blogs or tennis blogs, and I'd start getting offered press accreditation to cover, important events. And I would just write for free because I really enjoyed it, and it was a change of pace. And then eventually that helped me build up a portfolio as a writer to get hired by the Montreal Canadiens web department. So, if you follow the Habs on Facebook or on Twitter, they're posting articles. In 2013-14, I was one of the people writing those articles. And that allowed me to kind of get into the NHL, see how the pros played and practiced, travel with the team, see what the routine is like. And then once I got there, the funny thing is I think a lot of people would be really happy being there, but I wanted more. So I was like, okay, well, now that I'm here as a writer, I feel like my perspective, I could help the team in other ways. So I got really interested in analytics, in tactics and how players play the game. Obviously, I don't have a super high playing background. I played high school hockey, but enough to know that this is difficult, but we can get better at this. Yeah. Right? And what I did was actually that after that season, I took a step back and I went to work in women's hockey at McGill University for 3 years. So at that time, I was in charge of anything related to video analysis, anything related to statistical analysis, and I would also go on the ice with the players at practice to work with the goalies, take shots on them, push pucks around, help the coaches with the drills. So that was a really instructive 3 years, and we were very successful. We were ranked number 1 in the country for a good chunk of those years. We made 2 national finals, lost both, unfortunately. But having that experience of building up a video and analysis department from scratch got me on Kyle Dubas's radar, and in 2017 he reached out and he was creating a position to kind of augment his team, and then he invited me to apply for the job, which I got.
Awesome. That's amazing.
So, what, as a coach, I've been a hockey coach for my life, everything like that, you know the X and the O, everything like that, but for the way you are now, and you look like you define a player, so you completely make the player on the different details, the hands, the skate, the position, the body, the stick, the shot from the inside, the outside, the dot, all the kind of stuff like that. how did you define yourself, or did you say, okay, that kind of player? Because honestly, you follow prospect and the scout, everything like that. So how can you make it fun for someone versus another one, or what you focus more when you teach someone on private one-one, or when you watch the game?
So I think the thing that I've understood now working with different players from NHL down to minor hockey, like house league, is hockey is such a great game because you can play it so many different ways. You can approach it so many different ways, right? If you're really good with the puck, then you can try to play with the puck a lot. You can develop patterns of play that's going to allow you to get the puck. If you're not so good with the puck, maybe you're physically you're bigger and you can use that, or maybe you have a really good slap shot. So like it's not a sport like sprinting, where sprinting is just you run from A to B as fast as you can and everybody kind of looks the same. In hockey, you got guys going 100 miles an hour, and then you got other guys slowing it down and working laterally and kind of sneaking in and out of traffic. You can do it so many different ways. So I think as a coach now, the first thing I try to do is I try to respect the player's style of play, because it's almost like they're expressing their love of hockey, right? Everybody expresses it in a different way. Some guys like to crash and bang. Some guys like to play with more finesse. So once you understand what makes their game tick, then you can make them a little bit better at playing that game. And I think if you look at the effective coaches now, the NHL coaches, they're really good at getting the most out of their players, but not in the same way, right? It's less of a cookie cutter approach and more about talking with the individual or working with the individual to increase their to leverage their strength more. So when you ask me what I look for in a player, it's, does this player have identifiable strength? So is he really fast? Is he really good with the puck? Does he have a really good shot? Does he have really good hockey sense? Is he strong? And also, is this player open to adding things to their game? And I think that's where a lot of players, let's say you play AAA until you're 16, 17, and then everybody has their growth spurts, and some players, they stagnate because maybe you're big or you're fast or you're strong when you're younger, and then you stop learning things. You stop absorbing, new information and adding to your game. So a lot of times you'll see a player that looks dominant at 15, but then at 18, once they make major junior, they're less dominant, or you hardly see them anymore. So if I get on the ice with a player, I'm looking for, am I able to teach them something and have them be able to incorporate it right away? Now, it's up to me to find the right thing to teach and find the right area to work on, but it's also up to the player to quickly make that adjustment and show me that he or she can learn.
You make an ENORTAP. You want to have a question? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I know I'm a huge Hab fan, and we have a lot of Hab fans here as well. In the 2013-14 season that you had the opportunity to provide not only content for the Canadian website, but you also, it required, I guess, it entailed your job to be sort of a beat of a reporter for the Habs as well. And you covered, I'm sure, every practice, every game that they were involved in. And I would assume you also traveled with the players as well. Could you share with us, a couple questions. Number one, could you share with us maybe a unique situation that you came across during that time? And number two, just how competitive and I guess demanding is the Montreal media?
So certainly really demanding, because it's a market that's had so much success in the past, right? And having kind of been in that world, I just think that a lot of what made the Habs a great organization for so many years are also holding it back. So actually in the questions, Adam asked, what's the success of Vegas since becoming a franchise in 2017? And obviously Vegas is probably one of the best expansion success stories in all of sports, never mind the NHL. And one of the things that I could point to is, when you come into the league from scratch, you don't really have a playbook of how to do certain things, what kind of players you should go after, what kind of a style of play that your team should have, how the team relates with the community, how the team relates with its history. Whereas in Montreal, I think the history of the team makes it really special, but also it forces this perspective where you got to do things a certain way. And for me, like when I was younger, I was such a nerd about the history of the game. And I think a lot of people that I talk to who are my age, like they don't really appreciate the history of the game as much as maybe I did because I would read about it. And you think of the Montreal Canadiens as a team that's always been good. False. Like the team hasn't always been good. The team has had really tough times. I think in the 30s there were rumors that the team was going to move to Cleveland or something like that. Before the Second World War, they went about a decade without a cup. Then Rocket Richard came in. He scored 50 goals in 50 games, but you got to remember he scored 50 because a lot of the other team's best players were off fighting World War II. So he was playing in a much weaker league, and he didn't have to go and fight in World War II because he got medically discharged because the Canadian Army thought that his body was too fragile. He'd had an ankle injury and a knee injury or a fracture, something like that, in consecutive seasons. So he stayed back. He had that great season, and then he grew into a superstar. Once the other players came back from the war, and then Jean Beliveau, one of the best ever in hockey, he didn't want to play for the Habs. This was like his dream was to play semi-pro hockey, like where he's from, and play in front of his family and his friends and his close ones. His dream wasn't to come to the big city of Montreal and play the game. Whereas now, a lot of times you think, okay, well, playing for the Habs it's a dream. It's almost like a duty for French Canadian players. It's become a burden in a way. So it's really interesting because you see how this team, it's more than a team, and that's what makes it so special, but also that's what makes it so demanding for the people around the team.
It makes sense to me. Roger asked you, which player on the Montreal Canadiens has the best analytic, or maybe you can, I know you follow everybody, so what do you feel like, what kind of player, maybe the veterans or the rookies?
So, and this is even dating back to when I worked for the team like 8 years ago, but Brandon Gallagher is a player who's always had excellent analytics in terms of driving shots and driving goals. And you see it with him. We say that Brandon Gallagher is a coach's dream because he works so hard and, he's never afraid. He goes into the battle and he works on both sides of the puck. And that's almost selling his talent short, because if you look at the small plays that he's able to make, the deception that he has in his game, how well he skates with the puck, how well he shoots and retrieves the puck, it's not enough just to work hard. And I think, when you work hard, but also when you have the skill and you work in a smart way, then you get a player like Brandon Gallagher. Whereas a lot of other players, if you see them, they have a reputation for being good defensively or working really hard, but they're just not as good as Gallagher. So now he's kind of, he's getting a little bit older, he's getting a little bit more banged up, but he's a player that I think everybody can agree on because, traditional kind of hockey people like his game, but also, analysts and statistically minded people like his results as well. But you got to realize those players are rare. Okay. Like you might have a big guy that plays hard, who has very poor analytics, or you have a small guy who's maybe a little bit soft, who puts up great analytics. It's not every player is going to fall into that Brandon Gallagher mold of like everybody loves that player. So I think the value of whether it's video analysis or statistical analysis, it's just it allows you to appreciate more players.
It makes sense. You remember Gallagher was a 4th or 5th round overall pick, if I can remember that one over there, right? Do you feel because he was only because that time still long, like what, 7, 8, 9 years ago, do you feel like he, at that time was because the scout or the team was looking more the big guy, still physicality, or he was more attribute, maybe his skating he was a small player?
Yeah, I mean, he was small. He scored, he checked, he battled for pucks. He was a player who did everything well except he was short. So that's why he fell to the 5th round. That kind of player today, with what NHL teams know and what NHL teams look for, that player does not fall to the 5th round. That would be a 1st or 2nd round pick. Sure.
Because that changed recently, the last couple of years now, that the team paid more attention to those kind of players and everything like that. So it just makes sense. Talking about Gallagher, talking about Montreal, talking about development, we know what's happening for the last couple of weeks and months about Bergevin, everything. One biggest thing, the weakness of the Montreal Canadiens, what people reflect, is more about their development, everything like that. They don't produce enough. What do you feel about that kind of the comments for the people?
So going back to the history of the team, right? Like we know that this is a team with a very rich history of greatness. And I think the biggest mistake or the biggest trap that people fall into when a player arrives in Montreal, and I'm talking whether it's the fans, whether it's the Canadiens coaches or their scouts or their management, you have to allow people to grow into a role, and they don't arrive fully formed. Like, we go back to Brandon Gallagher. He's one of the very few players in my lifetime that's arrived in Montreal as a fully formed player. Like his rookie season was 2012, 2013. And then so I was with the team in his second year. But even his second year, you saw all the good things that you see today. His game hasn't changed. It's just always been good. Whereas for Max Pacioretty, it took a while. Remember, people got impatient, right? For Alex Galchenyuk, it took a while, and then it went downhill. For Kasperi Kapanen, it took a while, and now he's somewhere else. If we go back further, for Guy Lafleur, he broke into the league as supposedly Jean Beliveau's successor. He had 2 30-goal seasons, which are really good, right? And then, but he ended up being a right winger instead of a center. People thought he was going to be a center, and people wanted to trade him after 2 years, after 2 30-goal seasons. And then he started having 50-goal seasons, and then people were happy for a while, right? Stéphane Richer, he had 50-goal seasons. People weren't happy. He ended up getting run out of town. Like the difficult thing with Montreal is this market makes it so difficult to retain talent, and especially to let talent develop organically, right?
Properly.
The one thing I always talk about is it's farming. You can't rush when you farm, right? If the carrots take 3 months, it's going to take 3 months. You can't make it take 3 weeks, right? And if you want to make it 3 weeks, then it's never going to grow because you're just going to ruin it. And I think in Montreal, if I look at what they've done, it's just there's the inherent pressure, and it's not anybody's fault. That's just what having a rich history of excellence does. The expectations are way up. Okay, it's nobody's fault. We just got to live with it. But the second thing is I've just always been unsatisfied with the lack of curriculum or content or support that they give the players who are not yet fully formed. This is something that I think with the new front office, that's something that they can work on.
We have someone for asking you, Steve from Colorado, said, as Jack Scout, any player they make the Toronto Maple Leaf, or you'll be a part of someone with the Marlins, and also maybe privately you teach someone and make the NHL maybe, and also or any other organization?
So the story that I like to tell is Pierre Engvall. So Pierre Engvall is a bottom 6 forward for the Leafs right now, and I coached him with the Marlies, and before that I had worked with him on the player development side. And the funny thing with Pierre is he's 6'4", he's super in shape, he skates like the wind, he has good puck skills, he has a really good shot, and he was going to be kind of stuck in the bottom 6 of our AHL team because we had so many good left wingers in the system. And we ran into a situation where we had a lot of good wingers, but we didn't have any good center prospects. So I said, look, why don't we try Pierre at center? Because one of the things that makes center so much more demanding is you got to be a good skater, but you also have to be really smart in terms of reading the play. And that was always what other coaches didn't like about Pierre, is that he would sometimes make mistakes in his reads, and it would lead to breakdowns. And what I said is, look, we're short on centers. This player is not playing as much as I think he should. Let's try him there, because even if he makes a mistake, he skates well enough to recover. And so within about 18 months, he went from the third left winger on the AHL team to like the third center on the NHL team. Just because we took a chance on this unfinished player and we gave him some support and we allowed him to make some mistakes, but immediately he was showing us how good he was down the middle because he could skate the rink. And as a player, if you're an elite skater, a lot of the other stuff you can teach.
We have a question here from Yamo from Finland. He said, how good you know Kasperi Kapanen, his cousin is Oliver drafted by the Apps?
Yeah, well, so Kasperi was on the Leafs when I was there. He was my first year. He was with the Marlies. They won a Calder Cup. My second year, he got called up to the Leafs and basically never came back down to the AHL. Really good player, really fast. I don't know as much about Oliver. I think I met Oliver once because Kasperi brought him to practice with the Leafs, and I just remember meeting this like 13, 14-year-old kid with like a Finnish track jacket from his Finnish junior team. So I think I met him, but I didn't talk to him or anything like that. I don't know what he's like as a player. But the thing with Kasperi is he's such a fast player, and you see how effective he is now with Pittsburgh. But when he was in Toronto, a lot of times the speed would get him in trouble because we all know a player who on our team that we play on, that we coach, that like skates faster than their hands. And Kasperi was kind of that player for us back then. Is he would get a little bit too far ahead of the play, or he would default too much to his speed as a problem solving strategy, right? And then I remember like in Toronto back then, there was a big debate in the media between who was better. Was it Kasperi Kapanen or William Nylander? And by the way, those guys are really close friends. They're like, they might be best friends, which is funny because a lot of times like the media conversation was like one against the other. But what I always liked about Willie's game, and that's a difference maker for players who want to play at a high level, is he can speed it up or slow it down. He can beat you both ways, right? He can beat you north or he can beat you east-west. And if you want to be a really good player, you got to have that. So once again, I don't know much about Oliver. So, in the best case, maybe he's going to have Kasperi's speed, but also some east-west in his game. So I'm curious to watch him play.
Oliver say he have a better shot at Kasperi a couple of weeks ago. We're going to see him. He's going to play for Finland for the World Junior Championship. I met the three of them, Brown and Kapanen, also Marner, and at the hotel when I would see Pierre. I'm telling you, those kids was a 19, Jack. They was like a high school player. Like they was small. They was not fit. They was not big, but their speed and their agility, their skill, talented. It was one. When you talk about patience in Montreal, I think that's a great example for William Nylander. Yeah. He did not produce right away, but now you can see for the last 18 months, he's played better. He more confidence about himself. He's maybe become one of the best of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He make a big strength for the Leafs so far this year. I have a question. I know it's maybe not about the goaltender. You are really, what is maybe your best for you. But you have a question from 951 from Minnesota, from Alberta. He said, why the goaltenders stand up and they don't stand up anymore and they get beat all the time over the shoulder or that area?
Well, okay. So this is a story. Maybe you should ask Steve Briere because I'm sure he knows way more about this than me. But if one of the hockey books that I read when I was a kid is a book called The Hockey Handbook by Lloyd Percival, and this was written in the 1950s, and one of the first really like scientific studies about how goals are scored. And he said, I think a majority of goals. Here it is, the Hockey Handbook. Okay, Lloyd Percival. So this guy did a study about how goals are scored, and the majority of goals in hockey are scored low. Okay, and starting from the 70s, 80s, 90s, you see all the good goalies at the higher levels. It was Tretiak, then it was Dominic Hasek, Marty Brodeur was. He was a stand-up, but he added some butterfly to his game. Patrick Wall was a butterfly goalie. All the good goalies were the ones who were able to take away the bottom of the net. And now if you look at the goalies now, like they're all 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", so they could be on their knees and still cover the crossbar. Like the crossbar comes up to just above their shoulders. So really, like when they're down, they're actually still mostly up because there's so much upper body now. And the only space to beat them is up top. So you're seeing goals up top, but because there's nowhere else to shoot. Right? It's just one of those things where you look at how many goals are being scored. Its offense has been down since the 80s because goalies have gotten way better at taking away the bottom of the net.
It makes sense.
And the equipment as well.
Yeah,
has changed quite a bit for goalies.
The players themselves, man, like NHL players, by and large, they're shorter than you think, but the goalies, man, like they're taller than you think. Like they step off the bus, you can tell immediately who plays goalie because it's the big lanky kid. It's the two big lanky guys, and then the rest are shorter and stockier. You can tell.
Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
I have a question for Pierre Martin. He said, which position is that maybe the most difficult to find as a GM player in everything on that you believe, like defenseman, center, winger?
It's either a right-handed center or a right-handed defenseman. And why I say right-handed is because in Canada and in most of Europe, lefties in hockey outnumber righties about 2-1. In the U.S., it's closer to 50-50. If you go north in like to the native Canadian populations, they have a lot of righties for some reason. But in most of Canada and most of Europe, there are way more lefties and righties. So it's tougher to find a right-handed player who's really good. And it's also harder to have a player who can play center. And I think this is why a lot of people are really excited about the Habs potentially drafting Shane Wright, because he's one of those rare right-handed centers who can score and make plays.
It makes sense. I know you followed by you was with Toronto, but we always compare Ovechkin and also Matthews, Sandy, not Ovechkin, but Matthews and McDavid and like Crosby and Ovechkin. But this question is about, do you think Auston is the best 5-10 player in the league? But I will ask you, compared to McDavid, how do you see Matthews now since he became an NHL after a few years, 4 or 5 years now?
So I would even say like Matthews, he has to be a top 3 player in the league, not even top 5. Like the thing that's really special with Auston is he's looking to learn. So he's really good, he's really big, he's really strong, he's got a lot of skills, but every summer he adds something new to his game. And, McDavid does the same thing, but I just know Matthews and how he works and the people he works with better. And I know that that's what allows him to be a top 3 player, because if he didn't work at it, he'd still be a top 10, top 15 player, but that's the difference. And the thing with Matthews also is that because he's not as naturally fast as McDavid, he's a little bit more sophisticated in how he problem solves situations, because he has to be. Right? Whereas McDavid, he always has that speed that he has to, that speed that he can use to get by everybody, and it takes him to play with a guy like Sidney Crosby and train with Sidney Crosby this summer. And because Crosby is an older, slower player, when they play together, they talk and they figure things out, and that's really helped McDavid as well. So Matthews has always had that aspect of wanting to add things and add more nuances to his offense, and McDavid is getting there too. And I think, that natural speed that McDavid brings to the table, I think nobody else on the planet has. But Matthews is right up there with him, I think.
We are with the standing we have now. We know Montreal Canadiens is going to be at the bottom at some point. We're not going to make the playoff. We know, and everybody know about that. So I'm sure you follow the NHL draft, where for me, we focus more on this one right now. We have a couple of players now. The World Junior Championship is coming. But if you are the position next year, we maybe a little bit more, maybe bring maybe a couple of people, maybe Shane Wright, because this weekend, when I listened to you guys, it was amazing when you talk about Shane Wright, the way he was playing on the defensive side, and I learned a lot, honestly, because the fans looking at the player with a puck. They don't looking at the details of the game. Like Zuski, I believe, for me, is unbelievable on the defensive side. People say, what the heck are you talking about? But I think if you look about analytic, the kid, he can stop the puck, intercept the line. The stick is on the right position. But for me, my question, honestly, is Who do you believe for Montreal can focus maybe 2-3 players? You believe they'll be the top 5 in the initial draft 2022?
So I'm going to be a bit of I'm going to answer this in a different way, which is that as a fan base maybe, but especially as a team, you can't get into a situation where you think, okay, if only we drafted this player, all of our problems are over. Okay, because that kind of a player comes around once a generation. So the last one was maybe Connor McDavid, but then you see, the Oilers still they're having trouble going far in the playoffs. The one before that was Mario Lemieux, but then Mario didn't win a cup until Pittsburgh got Ron Francis and surrounded him with all of these great players, Steven. Mark Recchi, Jaromir Jagr, right? That had nothing to do with Pittsburgh drafting Mario Lemieux, but they weren't able to win until you had a group of 5, 6, 8, 10 great players. So the mindset for a rebuilding team going to a draft is, okay, we're gonna get some good players early. We're gonna get a lot of them, but then we need to build an infrastructure to insulate and to help these players until they become finished products. So you look at Edmonton, who struggled for a while. Now they're doing better. Buffalo, they're still in it. Detroit, they're still in it. The teams that end up coming out of a rebuild are teams that invest not only in draft picks, but also in everything else around those draft picks. And I think if Montreal's mindset is, if we can somehow get Shane Wright, then our problems are over, well, that's not going to work because it didn't work with Galchenyuk, 3rd overall. It didn't work with Kotkaniemi, 3rd overall.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I still believe you cannot build a team only with draft. You have to patch up with Wright and you have to patch up with UFA. It's not like you cannot only develop because it's not going to happen. It's not a team with one player. It's a team with many all together. ENORTAP, you have any question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I also saw in our chat somebody was asking about scouting. So I guess when you, and that's one of the areas I think Gordon's going to address with Montreal, because if there's one area that they were very deficient in was not only scouting, but also in the analytics part of the game. So I know he's going to be addressing that. But my question, Jack, to you would be, given, I guess, a scouting agent has to sort of determine the expected value or the potential of future players coming into the league. Is there a consistent manner in which that is done, and is it done differently from scouts that coach in different countries?
That's hard to say because I can't speak for scouts across different countries or across different organizations. But what I will say is a lot of the scouting now is because we have more access to video and more access to stats, we can be a lot more forward-looking. Because the weakness of using analytics to scout players is analytics generally it's based on points. So basically you're saying that if a player puts up a point a game or half a point a game or a point and a half a game in a certain league, and that's considered either good or bad, and that player is going to make it or not. But as we know, every player is different. Maybe you have a defenseman who's really good defensively, doesn't play on the power play, doesn't put up points, but actually has surprisingly good skills. And you miss that if you just look at the analytics side of things. So the idea now becomes, it's like, can we use analytics as a way to simplify our work process, which means that we're missing fewer of those high-scoring players that maybe you wouldn't get a second look. But also, are we using video? Are we leveraging our player development knowledge to say, this is a player that's going to grow really well in our system, right? Is this, like, there's an expression in baseball called scouts would say, like, this is our kind of guy, right? And this is something that you have in mind for a lot of different teams. Like, for Toronto, we were all about skating ability, skill, offensive awareness, defending, but with smarts rather than with physical power. for a team like Philly historically or Boston historically, they're looking for tough guys with grit, but who can score and who can make plays. Like every team, I think, has that a bit of a mold that say, okay, well, these kind of guys, they do really well here. And I think there's value in that because like not every draft pick is going to develop the same way in every organization. So if you do a good job of evaluating and figuring out who the best players are in a vacuum, but also you have a really great knowledge of what you can do as a staff and what kind of players really thrive here, then you can make a better decision.
Right. What percentage of drafted players would you say actually end up making it to the NHL?
Oof, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it drops off significantly after the lottery picks. So
right.
if you have a first overall pick, then that player is probably going to be a star, never mind a regular player. But then as you get to the tail end of the first round, you're getting a lot of these like bottom six players or AHL, NHL tweeners, and that's to be expected, which is why a lot of times it's better to go for home runs rather than the safe pick, because the safe pick means that you're picking a guy that's an AHL, that's a good AHL player with a third round pick or a second round pick, and
right.
you can get those players for way less than that. It's almost like saying, hey, give me $10 today and you'll get $2 5 years from now. Makes no sense, right? But if I say, give me $10 today and maybe next year you can get $100, you might take that bet, right? So it's kind of poker in the sense that you're always looking at your odds and always looking at what the expected payoff is, and that's why the safe pick is rarely a safe pick, because what you're saying is that you're just going to stockpile a lot of these like number 5, 6, 7 Ds or 12 forwards, which is not what you want when you're trying to build a team that goes above and beyond.
Jack Wright, Steve G said, do you think Shane Wright is the best overall prospect for the upcoming?
I'm not a prospect specialist. I mean, I've looked at a few games of his. I think he's done really well. My biggest question with him is what's his learning ability? Because he made the OHL as an exceptional player. He's been playing Major Junior for 3 years. His production has always been good, but it hasn't gone up that much. So now I'm wondering, is there a physical reason or a technical reason or a mental reason why he hasn't really improved? Because we're looking for him to improve. Not only are we looking for him to be good now in his league, we're looking for him to improve and then get even better once he makes the NHL. So I would have to do some more homework on that. Certainly, I think I would trust a lot of the good scouts out there who say that he's a top prospect. I don't know if he'll end up being the best player out of this draft. Could be a 7th round pick, never know. But he's certainly a good player, and he'll play hockey for a long time.
Joseph, he pre-ordered your hockey tactic 2022, so I'm sure Jack will say thank you so much, Joseph. But follow this, honestly, Jack, I follow you a lot, and you work a lot about system, different team, everything like that. Do you have like the same, you see the field, most of the team play the same system, 1-2-2, 2-1-2, or, on the power play, whatever it is. Do you feel like they are almost the same kind of system they use, most of the team?
So most NHL teams do play fairly similar system. And first of all, it's because, at the highest level people do stuff in similar ways, right? Because there's certainly some systems that work better than others, and those at the top, they tend to gravitate toward those solutions. So not too surprising. The second thing is that there are fewer players on the ice, as in soccer, for instance. So in soccer, you have 11 players plus the goalkeeper. So there are more configurations, right? In hockey, you only have 5 skaters and 1 goalie. So there are fewer pieces to move around. And the third thing is also that in the NHL, but really at any level of hockey, the systems are player driven. So you have extremely good or extremely bad players who are system breakers in good or bad ways. So Connor McDavid is a system breaker because if you give him the puck, it doesn't matter what offense you run, he's going to make it work. Kirill Kaprizov from Minnesota, another guy he's transformed Minnesota because not because the system changed, but because Kaprizov is such a dynamic player that he breaks their system in a good way, right? He's introducing new combinations and new variations. I don't really think Montreal has such a player right now. The last one they had was Max Domi. For all the good and bad things that he did, he's one of those players that automatically makes you more dangerous off the rush. He gives up a lot. Okay, he's not so good defensively, but he's a system breaker in a good way offensively. So in the NHL, a lot of it is very player driven. And in the next ebook that I'm releasing around February 1st, the system sheets, not only do I present diagrams of how the teams line up, but also, I'll talk about what McKinnon and Makar do together in Colorado, what, McDavid and Draisaitl do in Edmonton. Because a lot of that stuff in hockey is you have a way of playing, but then it's your best players who are evolving and then elevating that way of playing. It's very talent driven, which is why, once again, everybody's excited about the scorers in hockey, because having a couple of those players, it really changes your entire system and your entire way of playing.
It makes sense. A little bit to understand a bit, like you said, they already play I don't know, man-to-man on defensive side, or they play a 2-1-2, or we swamp everybody in the corner, and everything like that, the hockey will evaluate. But you said when they break the system, when you talk about Kaprizov and McDavid, do you have any specific reason they break? Is it the speed? Is it the puck position? Is it the player with no puck make to break the system on the defensive side, example?
So I think it's in hockey, like I know a lot of coaches who kind of struggle with this, because I've been one of them. I work with one of them, which is how do you treat your top versus your bottom players, right? Your best players versus the players that don't play a lot. Because a lot of coaches, basically how it works is the best players, they'll do things, and then if they screw up, they just don't get punished. Whereas the bad players or the fourth line players, they'll make a play, and if it works out, great. The coach doesn't say anything. And if the play doesn't work out, he gets benched. And a lot of the coaching gets done this way. On the one hand, it's a very old school, maybe not the best way to handle this. But on the other side, the reason why the top players are the top player is because they're able to improvise. And when they improvise, their success rate is high. Whereas if you have lesser players improvise, first of all, they don't score as much, but second of all, they're going to make more mistakes. So there's a balance to be found between letting your players play, but also giving your less talented players a little bit more structure and your best players more leeway. Because ultimately, that's how you maximize a team. Is you let your best players step away from the system when they feel the moment is right, but then your lesser players, you give them some firm guidelines, but also maybe once in a while some opportunities to expand their game, but mostly give them a firm structure.
ENORTAP, any question before we go?
Yeah, I just wanted to one final question, Jack. And again, this might be me only, but I've observed that over the last 10 years or so, that the growth and development, going back to goalies, the growth and development of goalies has changed quite a bit in Canada. We were at one point producing some of the best goaltenders across the league, and now it seems like either we've taken our foot off the pedal here in Canada, because some of the best goalies are coming from outside of here. Like when you think of, Bobrovsky, Varlamov, Shesterkin, Soros, Hellebuck, like these guys are dominating. Anderson. Is there something that you've observed as well over the past few years? And if so, what's at the cause of it?
So the experience I've had with the goalie side was more when I worked in university women's goaltending, and because I was able to go on the ice with the goalies every day and kind of do what Steve Briere does, which is shoot pucks in the goalies, like really get to know their games, work with them, and tell them what I'm seeing, like, trying to figure out what they could do better. And what I would say is a lot of the goalies in Canada now, they grow up as goalies and they only play as goalies. Whereas one of the best goalies that I've ever been on the ice with, Kim St. Pierre, who just went into the Hockey Hall of Fame, she was a really good shortstop in softball.
Right.
And that developed her glove hand. That developed her reads. That developed her ability to move not just on the ice but off the ice as well. And if you see a lot of young goalies who are very much blockers, like they just kind of let the puck hit them, and they don't have very very well developed glove hands, or they don't handle the puck really well. Like Carey Price, he might have been a junior player as a defenseman or forward, because like if you watch him skate with the puck and shoot the puck, like he plays, right? Like Marty Brodeur probably could have played major junior as a skater, right? A lot of those guys like that, like they have a better understanding of the game in terms of reading the play. A lot of the goalies that play baseball, either from hitting or catching, maybe their hips stand up better because they're not doing the same motion year round, right? Or they have a better glove hand, or they have better hand-eye coordination, whatever. Like, I just think it's become counterproductive. Like, we love hockey and we love goaltending so much that kids, like, they invest all themselves into that instead of taking a break and playing baseball or tennis or soccer or things of that nature. Maybe that's it. That's the number one thing I see.
I see. We're almost at the end, Jack. I want to know more about, what's next for Jack? And you accomplished a lot for your young age. I'm really impressed for you 32 years old and been already at the top and now back for you. Look like you work from home and everything. What's next for Jack Hand now?
I'm really enjoying the work that I'm doing now. I'm working with players as young as 12 and 13, as old as, NHL prospects and pro players. Especially for the younger players, I want to follow them as far as hockey will take them, whether it's major junior, whether it's pro, whether it's college. I want to be around for them. If an NHL opportunity opens up, I'm all ears. Like I love to get back and work at the highest possible level. But we'll see. Like I just really enjoy the work I'm doing, and for me, putting out good work has never led me wrong. So I'm happy with doing that, and we'll see what happens.
You know the guy, I can't remember. Is it Daryl Biss? He worked in
Belfry?
Toronto. He worked with friend players, private, like NHL players. You know what I'm talking about?
Daryl Belfry, yeah.
All right,
Darryl
so
Belfry.
there you go. But he really developed. He was video coach for the Los Angeles Kings for many years. So he really developed a concept for different players like Patrick Kane, and they work with him a lot. And I saw him a lot in Florida and Fort Myers, everything. But is it a kind of job you're looking for? Is it a kind of the projection you see yourself?
I mean, Daryl's a friend, and we spent a lot of time together, and he's one of my favorite people to talk to in hockey. So I would love to kind of continue in the direction that he's working in. But also what I'm finding is a lot of high-level coaches are reaching out to me. So what Daryl's doing with a Patrick Kane or an Auston Matthews or a Claude Giroux or a Nate McKinnon, I'm doing some of the work with high-level coaches in terms of maybe showing them different X's and O's or helping them with kind of more the mental side of the coaching job. And maybe that's the direction in which my career is going to evolve. So be more of a consultant coach, the kind of guy that's a third party that maybe, you hire, and then I help you with certain problems that you have, on a one-on-one basis, and then help your players indirectly like that. So that's a side of my business that I'm seeing growth in, not only working with players, but also working with coaches. So maybe that's the plan.
Awesome. How do people can reach you and maybe promote what you do right now as the book or what's coming for you?
So the best way for you to follow what I'm doing is on Twitter, because I post a lot of free content. Whenever I publish a newsletter, I'm going to share it on Twitter. So my Twitter is JHANHKY. So I'm sure, Coach, you're going to share that. And also my my Hockey Tactics newsletter. It's the hockeytacticsnewsletter.substack.com. So links that you can share in the description. Lots of free content. If you like what I do and would like to support me and also would like to learn more, I also have ebooks that you can buy and a premium subscription for people who are really working the game and want to get better.
I'm really impressed, first of all, by your work at your young age. You've been in hockey for over 35 years, 40 years, been in the from the bottom to the top. Everything on that was great. But to see you at young age to learn already, I know you're going to be very impactful. A lot of people that have a young kid. If you have a young kid want to be taught by someone, I think Jack would be the right person. But Jack, we are grateful and thankful for the Hockey Nation Live Show to having you today. We know you gave us about 30 minutes now. You've been over 1 hour. So I know you do a lot of fun things. So we really, really thankful about your time today. And I wish everybody, I ask people to follow you on Twitter because you bring a lot of stuff. And that's how I learned from you also. This weekend was amazing seminar. I really enjoyed what you did last week. It was all free, guys. It's for not only for coach, it's for people who want to know more about the game, and that's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hockey on TV right now, so check out the free content, and I'm just really happy to be in a position to share things with people. So thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you so much, Jack. We wish you an amazing, great evening. Thanks again. We are saying we wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays for you and your family. Thanks again.
Thank you. Take care.
Continued success,
Thank you.
Jack.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mr. ENORTAP, it was a great opportunity to have Jack Hand in the house today. You know, at the end of the show, we always ask you what you think. But before, we want to thank each one of the people in the chat. I know we did not answer all your questions. It's not easy when we have a lot of people and we have asked questions, and we try the best we can. Hopefully you enjoy it to have Jack Hen in the house. We're looking for more people or more guests to join us at some point for 2022. But at the end of the show, in our tab, you always bring something. What do you pay your attention for today?
Well, I was just amazed. Like we could have gone on for at least a couple of hours there. Jack is so knowledgeable. He really represents the next evolution of what coaching should look like, and involving analytics and greater scouting possibilities. He has a sound foundation of what the game is all about, and the thing that really kind of amazed me, and I know we have a lot of youth in our Hockey Nation family, was his persistence to get to where he is today, because he doesn't have a pedigree of hockey generations that got him to this point. It was all through hard work and just getting at it on his own and thinking outside the box. So for many of you young guys out there that are passionate about hockey and wish to pursue that as a career, and not just as a player, but in the organizations, you'd be well versed to follow Jack and ask him some questions, because he's done it.
You're absolutely right. For me, it's impressive because, you know, you're always thinking a guy need to be in college Division I or American Hockey League or East Coast Hockey League or play professionally to stay in the game or to be coach or anything like that. No, you don't have to. It's all about learning every single day from people. Surround yourself with the right people. And you can see, I ask a couple of questions like, who are you with? He is with Belfry in Ontario, one of the best coach in NHL on the private. You talk about Instat. That's what I have too. It's you get those kind of tools to improve, to get better, to do his own work. And for me, that's about. So we talk about bottom monkey. We talk about people like 15, 16, 17. Maybe I cannot play hard or I cannot play high level, but you can work in hockey. Second thing for me is about, you don't have to be only coach anymore. You have your own company at home. You can talk about hockey at home. You can have your video coach. You can become assistant coach. You can do a lot of things. He started ENORTAP. For me, what I pay the most attention, he started free intern for the Montreal Canadiens to write on the blog for the Montreal Canadiens. That bring him all the way today where he is right now. It took him about 10, 12 years. So that's open door like that. And that's pretty amazing when you think about his journey as only 32 years old. ENORTAP for me, it was unbelievable for what he accomplished so far.
100%, coach.
So we have a few people in the house right now. And Michael has been saying like you and me and ENORTAP, it's too late. So we cannot come back.
Or
It's
washed
too late
up.
now. Forget about that, Michael. Keep working with your Santa Claus coming aboard. Everything like that. But we have a lot of people, guys. People in the chat here. We have to welcome them. Not welcome them, but thanks them to participation. They have a lot of great questions. We try the best we can to help it. It wasn't possible. I know some people flip, and I have to skip that question. But hopefully, we did the best we can for everybody to answer. Steve had a great question. Also, Yamo also earlier. But I think overall, top that show turned around to be great, and to have a time for. Sometimes we never know who you cross your path, and Jack to have that kind of the flexibility and to be grateful to accept our invitation and finish the year 2021 with Jack Hand. I think that's another milestone for the Hockey Nation Live Show. And again, you are one part of the family now in our tap. We want to thank you so much also for your participation with us Monday to Friday. And guys, it's not over because we have one more tonight. What are you talking about, Coach? Yes, Michael DeVillano. Michael been with us for over 1 year. Every morning at 11 o'clock, he's going to join us tonight. And I can't wait to see Michael. We miss him terribly. He was a great co-host, like in our tap, him in the morning. And I can't wait to have Michael tonight at 9 o'clock. And tomorrow night, Christmas party with the Hockey Nation Live Show. ENORTAP is back with us with Michael DeVillano. We're going to go through his fan activity for 2021. And of course, he's going to have his hat inside that one over there. But again, we want to thank everybody tonight. I know we don't talk too much about NHL tonight, about the game and all that, but we have a lot of great people. Jose, Eagle, Michael. We have Dan in the house right now. We few people flew all night. We have a Gator show up at some point. We have a Butter Monkey. We got Jose Laham was around here. And then we have also, like I said, Yamo was around and everybody. Pierre Martin, Roger L. Danny was around. So we thank each one of you guys to be a part. And ENORTAP, this cannot be asked more about what happening today with us. And we have to be thankful to Jack to participate with us. So I think we have good news. We will be back tonight at 9 o'clock for the Power Play Show. Differently Power Play Show. I don't know. I'm going to go with a big Frenchy quiz at the end of the night. But Michael DeVillano will be with us at 9 o'clock p.m. in our tap. I can't wait to see Michael. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to see you tonight at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Coach.
Then we have to remember one more thing. Of course, you are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Thank you so much, everybody. Without you, this would be impossible. ENORTAP, we are so grateful having you. And until then, guys, until 9 o'clock, we wish you be well and be healthy. Have an amazing, great evening and nice dinner or supper. Depend where you live around the world. Some said dinner, some said supper, whatsoever. Eat well. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, ENORTAP.
Thank you, Coach. Good night, everyone.
That every child got their hearts filled up with joy. Yes, it's Christmas all around.
Thank you so much, Joseph. François Pitre, thank you so much, my friend. Don't forget to click on the like, that'd be awesome. Before you go, Eagle, Frank, welcome. Thank you so much, Eagle. What about 951? Another great one. Holistic Nature. Thank you so much. Whitey, AK Whitey in the house. Thank you so much.
This time of year is a time to cheer. Let our loved ones, our family and friends have a Christmas with so much love and with joy and laughter. Let us make memories that stay forever. It's Christmas today.
Et Martin, Québécois pur laine. Bien, Martin, have a good night. As-tu des Québécois ici, bien sûr? Thank you, ENORTAP, again. Have an amazing, great night.
Snow is falling down, and the colored lights lighting up this town. And as I walk outside, hear the Christmas choir sing, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you.